out. What do you think about Donald Trump? That's the news. The news is about Trump. And so Trump sucks up a lot of oxygen. That's difficult to contend with.
So, a party with no clear identity, and it shows the New York Times found that Democrats have lost 2 million registered voters since 2020, while Republicans gained 2.4 million. They are also bleeding cash, the Democrats are. By the end of June, the RNC had $80 million on hand. Compare that to $15 million for the DNC. President Trump blasting his personal playlist while testing out the speakers at the freshly renovated Rose Garden. And that kind of showman flair is part of his trademark identity. It stands in sharp contrast to the Democrats, who are struggling with an identity crisis. One of the Obama podcast bros said he had to admit his party doesn't have much beyond opposing the president.
The debates that happen in the upcoming primaries will be not just a way we figure out where we want to go, but the debate itself will be instructive to people watching it about what the Democratic Party stands for. How do we figure out what we stand for? We know Democrats are against Trump, but what are they for? What are they for? People said that about Hillary. They said it about Kamala. They say about all kinds of Democrats. Well, if you give a bunch of policy addresses and then a reporter asks you while you're passing him on your way out, what do you think about Donald Trump? That's the news. The news is about Trump. And so Trump sucks up a lot of oxygen. That's difficult to contend with.
So, a party with no clear identity, and it shows the New York Times found that Democrats have lost 2 million registered voters since 2020, while Republicans gained 2.4 million.
So those were some good points made by Jon Lovett, former Obama speechwriter. He says, Democrats don't even really know what they stand for. They have no real clear message. It's just anything that's in the news cycle is just anti-Trump. That's their stance. And they're struggling. They're going to need the primaries to really make a clear case for themselves. They're not just about picking a nominee. It's about showing the voters what they actually believe in. And we're soon to find out if they can take care of it.
Are also bleeding cash, the Democrats are. By the end of June, the RNC had $80 million on hand. Compare that to $15 million for the DNC. Vice President J.D. Vance had some advice for the opposition during a sit-down with Laura Ingraham that airs tonight at 7.
You've got to be yourself. You've actually got to talk to people honestly about the issues. I don't think it's that complicated. Don't be a crazy person. Be authentic. If the Democrats did that, they'd do a hell of a lot better.
Years ago, Ed Gillespie taught me to pay attention to voter registration numbers. And when I read that New York Times piece today, I couldn't believe it, Kellyanne. They're bleeding everywhere across the board.
Yes, in the 30 states that track voter registration, Dana, the Democrats have lost in all 30. That's pretty remarkable. It's not a red state. It's not a purple state. It's everywhere. And the adjunct to that.
And that's a clear indication that they have no message and they don't know what they stand for. That's a lot of voters just jumping ship, being like, I might not even agree with what the message is over on this side, but at least there's a message. I might have some family or friends that agree with this, so they make it a little easier to understand. And the numbers don't lie.
That is, we have more and more Americans choosing to register Republican. That's different than Democrats losing to, say, so-called unaffiliated or independent. If you say, I'm a Republican, you're taking that red hat off the hook. You're putting your boat in the water. You're very proud. I see Trump 2028 signs everywhere. And Vice President Vance is absolutely right. You have to be yourself. But the Democrats are being themselves. That's how they got here. Mm-hmm. They are absolutely being themselves. And they have screwed it up on the issues over time. It's showing in the registration.
It also makes a really good point that they are being themselves, and them being themselves resonates with no one. A lot of part, though, of them being themselves has been just taking large donations and just doing, I guess, whatever the donations want, which eventually bites you in the butt, and it doesn't register with young people like myself. Housing has become ridiculous. All sorts of pricing has become ridiculous. And, the current administration said they were going to address a lot of it. That's literally why people voted for them.
Numbers. Look, I think that the modern Democratic Party is collapsing. It's hemorrhaging voters, but it's also broke It's bereft of ideas. It's not fun. I think the guy with the joy on the job is Donald Trump. You know, Dana, for every other issue set going back and forth between the two parties in terms of who has an advantage, the one the Democrats owned for a very long time was sort of the culture and technology and the cool. This is the guy with swagger. He's right there. He's having a blast. He's now doing in the Rose Garden what he does in Mar-a-Lago. Any of us who have dinner with him witness that. He plays the music. He plays it loudly. People love it. And who's going to complain? His neighbors are Scott Bessent at Treasury. Right. The neighbors aren't going to complain about the music coming out of the house. What he's done in the Rose Garden is the ultimate get off my lawn to the left. And I feel for the Democratic Party, until they actually get their own outsider. And look at Gavin Newsom. He tried to do this, was it a radio show or podcast, whatever he tried to do. Now he's busy trolling on social media. And
right, and they do need an outsider because Trump owns so much of the political oxygen in 2025. And even when he wasn't president the last 4 years, he dominated the airwaves, the media space, everything. And, you know, the Democrats, their current outsider is that guy running for mayor in New York. And I don't know who really agrees with that guy, other than people in New York, but strange outsider pick.
it's cringe, it's falling flat. I'm sure they'll come after me now, who cares? Because Donald Trump is one of one. Only he can do what he's done with social media, with podcasts, in the way he's done it. 900 rallies and counting. Mm-hmm. The thing that he does that we all miss and don't talk enough about is he just works harder than everyone else. Well, but the joy on the job is the key. The Democrats are race baiting, they're bitter, they're angry, and now they got this internecine warfare where they're fighting with each other.
If he comes after you, maybe he'll go after Joe Scarborough too, because he said the same thing. The joyous, you can work hard and still be joyous in your job.
No one should be taking any sort of advice from Joe. Said Joe Biden was the sharpest he's ever been before that last debate Joe had, where he made a fool of himself. So Joe doesn't really get to have any skin in the game with these things.
You show it every day, Greg.
That is so true, Dana, and I'm glad you finally acknowledged it, and we get past that bitterness that we've had for many years. It is amazing when you think about it that you can lose your identity after spending decades on identity. The one thing that you made the priority, and after it's all said and done, you don't have one. It tells you, and I've said it before, identity policies were always a sham, and were meant to actually sap you of your real individuality for labels that you tick to put yourself in manageable boxes so people like Obama's insiders could understand you. You tell me you're LGBTQ, LMNOP, you tell me nothing about you. The Dems party is a collection of zeros now because they didn't create their own individual identity. They didn't create their own ideas. You painted this house with a coat of identity, and Trump came and his rain washed it all away. And now we see what it is. There's nothing there. You know, Carville did say, it would be really good to get an outsider. But what is a nominee without popular sentiment, ideas, or policies? It's just a shell. I mean, it did work with, you took a feeble, incoherent jackass like Joe Biden and you poured all this progressivism down his throat and told everybody he was a moderate. But like the Doobie Brothers said, we won't get fooled again. So.
That was the Who.
I know. The Dems, you can't be fun when everything fun became evil. Who wants to be around someone who takes every joke literally and claims it's worse than violence?
Right, that's a great point, and like the last woman said, the Democrats used to own the culture, and Donald Trump and the Republicans now they've definitely, they've tipped the scales. It's definitely more in their favor. But they're facing a crazy identity crisis, and I think their only hope right now is Gavin Newsom, and his track record is not good. I don't see anybody other than maybe people who voted for him in California liking the guy. Nobody I know likes him. I mean, the guy fumbled COVID. He fumbled all the businesses fleeing California, crime and shoplifting, homelessness. He took care of the homeless problem when Xi Jinping came by. Oh, Xi's coming over. We're gonna clean up the streets for him. That's not a good message for America. And that's the president? No.
You canceled fun on behalf of the activist class. The old Ben Shapiro line, you know, it's facts, not feelings. It's now fun, not feelings. But the Dems became the party of victims, and victims never succeed because they blame their failures on other people. And you can't actually learn from a failure and succeed if you don't own your own failures.
You brought up James Carville. Let's listen to a little bit of that. He was on with Jesse last night.
I don't think the party's in danger of collapse.
Do the Democrats, James, do the Democrats need a daddy?
We need a presidential nominee. You're exactly right. We will not have a unified message in our party until the 2028 election. We have tons of really strong candidates, and I think we're going to be fine. I think we're going to romp and stomp in 2026.
Do you think you believe that?
Well, they ran 2 moms and a grandpa, and they need to run a daddy. The problem is there's no dads in the party. And what, Jessica? In order to have masculine policies, you need to live your life as a man. You need to live a life of action, and you have to live it outdoors. And the first step is having your own compound. Every presidential candidate or president needs their home base, right? Trump had Trump Tower. He's got his golf courses. He's got the White House now. You call people in, you hold court, you control everything. That's what they need. Now, I don't know why they don't have that. Maybe they're ashamed of it. Gavin Newsom has a vineyard. Why doesn't he bring in the press to his vineyard and look beautiful outside with all the grapes? That's how you do it. Americans love to drink wine. Newsflash, Newsom, go to the vineyard, hold a press conference, and act like you're a man of the people. Don't be ashamed of it. Trump does press conferences in front of billion-dollar buildings with his name on it. Kenny Bunkport, does that ring a bell? How about the Bush Ranch? How about the Reagan Ranch? You do that, you show the American people you know how to work. And then you show them you're a man of leisure. Because if I see another press conference with the mariachi band in front of a Capitol with a stupid microphone and paid shills that hold signs that they didn't write, I'm going to shoot myself in the head. Democrats have to go out there and seize power the way Trump did. Take it back and then give it to the people. Say, I'm going to give you a real civilization.
We'll end it there. Jesse's just ranting now. And that last gentleman said the Democratic Party isn't going to collapse. And I don't believe it's going to collapse, but they do. They need a real candidate. They need a real, I don't know so much about an outsider, but even if it's going to be Newsom, he needs to switch up his tune. He needs to maybe take some accountability and have a clear message. I mean, the Democrats right now have an opportunity because the Republicans aren't talking about it. The housing issue in crisis in the country, rent is through the roof, housing's through the roof. The younger generation does not feel like they have a fair shot at the American dream. Just being, you know, a common folk, you need to have like 3 or 4 side hustles just to get ahead nowadays. It was not like that 10 years ago. And yeah, the Democrats, they have a real opportunity right now to take a clear lead on the messaging moving forward for the younger generation. But I personally think if Newsom's going to be their guy, he needs to take some accountability in his past blunders. And hopefully they don't use the same people they used for Harris for his campaign, you know, doing cringe social media stuff, TikToks, fake relatability, and, you know, like style over substance. Yeah, this was a great episode. Unfortunately, the Democrats are losing tons of voters, but you know, we'll see what happens moving forward. And thanks for everybody for tuning in. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode.